But my real passion, I mean, if I could do three things for the rest of my life, I'd want to write, podcast, and speak. Those are my
Nice.
three favorite things to do. And I just love being with people and encouraging them. And it's just so rewarding when you write a book and people tell you it helps them, right? It's just like something that's so phenomenal.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm an award-winning, multi-published author of books for middle school kids in fantasy and adults in women's contemporary and romantic suspense. And my next book is coming out soon, A Shadow of Hope. I just revealed the cover and the title. And A Shadow of Hope is coming soon. It's available for pre-order right now. So head over to Amazon, and you can head to my website, artbyruth.com, to read the synopsis, to learn more about what it's about. I'm super excited for you to read this story. Head over to my website at artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter so you can learn more about this project and more projects coming soon. And you'll get a free downloadable copy of my suspense novella, The Letter Opener. That's artbyruth.com. And if you like today's episode, please consider subscribing over at YouTube and follow me on Spotify and leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you think of today's episode. Okay, let's get started. Michelle Bader Ebersole is with me today. She is an author, speaker, and founder of Widow Goals. Head over to widowgoals.org and see her books, her podcast, and her social media links. And she is here today to talk about her story and why she chose to write a book about being a widow. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Michelle talk about her life story. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day. I'm so excited to be talking with Michelle Bader Ebersole, who is going to talk to us about what it takes to write a nonfiction book about a very deep subject, becoming a widow and how to survive widowhood. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners by telling us a little, about your story, and then we'll talk about your amazing book and all your resources.
All right. Thank you. Well, I'm going to try to give you the short version because it could take a long time to talk about, and I want to get into the book writing process and all of that. So my very long story short is I have to go way back to high school because that's where I met my husband, Luke. Luke and I met in high school, went away to college, came back, ran into each other through mutual friends, got married a year later, and he had a lump in his ankle. So at this time, he's 25, I'm 24, and there was a lump in his ankle, and he went to the doctor, and they're like, "Oh, it's tendonitis. Don't worry about it. You're young." And it just kept growing. And so we got married, and then we found out we were pregnant. Like we got pregnant like 2 months after we got married. Then he goes to the doctor about his leg, and they say it's like nothing, but it gets worse. And then finally they decided to do a biopsy, and it was a very rare bone cancer, mesenchymal chondrosarcoma, usually found in children. They didn't know how to treat him, so they just did all this chemotherapy. It was like a 5-night stay at the hospital, like 24 hours a day. It was very intense. And my whole world changed very quickly. Now I'm a newlywed with my husband going through cancer, and I'm pregnant, and it was a really, really, really hard time. Unfortunately, the chemo did not work, and so he had his leg amputated. And that was a life-changing day because he was like all-star athlete, all of these things, and it completely changed who he was. And he was a mail carrier before all of that. He tried to go back to work for a little bit, but it was just too hard. So he was on disability the rest of his life. And so our whole lives were rocked with that. So he was cancer-free because the cancer was only in his ankle. So that was great. But he now was an amputee, and his life completely changed. The chemo made his immune system really low, so he got sick a lot. So, long story short, he was cancer-free, which was great. We went on to have 2 more kids. So we had 3 kids, like 3.5 and under, which was crazy time. He wasn't working, so I had to work full time. I didn't want to. I was a teacher, but I really just wanted to be home with my kids, but unfortunately I couldn't. Then fast forward 13 years,
Wow.
and he had been sick off and on, but not cancer. But he had had pancreatitis, cirrhosis, diabetes, like so many things over the years. We'd gone to the hospital a lot of times. So he was never fully well again. But 13 years later, they did a scan and found cancer in his lungs.
Mm.
And so that time they told us it's terminal. And but we weren't going to just give up. So he started chemo again, which he said he'd never do, but we didn't really have much of a choice. Started chemo. This time my kids at that time were 9, 11, and 13. And so this time we sat them down and talked about it. They knew about it. I actually wrote a book my first year after our first year of marriage, and it was called In Sickness and in Health. It's now called Cancer Can't Crush Us. But I wrote that book and they had all read the book. So they like
Mm.
really knew about his cancer and the journey we'd been through before and all of that. And they knew because he had a prosthetic leg, and it was just that was they knew that was normal for him. Anyways, this time sitting the kids down and telling them about cancer was really difficult. And just saying, okay, we're going to do all that we can. And we started chemo, and he did that. I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, didn't work, didn't help anything. And he just was coughing all the time, and the cancer was growing in his lungs. And eventually it came to a place of it's about quality of life now. Like we know he's dying, but we still prayed for a miracle every single day. I remember praying with the kids every night that God would heal Daddy, whether it was in heaven or on earth, and we prayed that would be on earth, but
Hmm.
they knew that it could not be here. So, long story short, he passed away May 23rd of 2020. We were able to, it was COVID, so we were all home together. He was at home. So, I've had friends, their husbands died in the hospital and they weren't able to be with him, but he was at home, which was great. And, we were able to be by his side. It was very peaceful and beautiful. Um, but the hardest moment of my life at the same time, God gave me a supernatural peace to walk my kids through it. Like I was not crying. I was able to call my parents and his parents, and we were able to be by his side and just have a really peaceful time together. And it was after he died that I really lost it. When all the kids left the room, it was just me and my mom and Luke's body, and I completely lost it after that. And then it was the hardest time of my life. Like I thought I was prepared because I knew it was coming. There's this thing called anticipatory grief when you know
Hmm.
someone's dying. I had done all that, but the moment, I watched him die, I watched his soul leave his body, and it was extremely hard. And then I was a 41-year-old widow with three teenagers. At the time he died, they were 12, 14, and 15, which are hard
Mm.
ages anyways.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
suddenly not a single mom. I'm a solo mom, which is different because single moms sometimes have a place for the other, where they go, but solo moms, we don't have anybody else. So I was suddenly a
Mm.
solo mom trying to guide, my kids through this incredibly hard time. And it was, yeah, definitely the most devastating, hardest time of my life. Um, but God healed me completely. I've definitely seen him turn mourning into dancing and make beauty from ashes. And as I poured into him and I poured into every grief book I could find, I went to a grief retreat, which was crazy because it was 2020, but there was one open that a friend told
Mm.
me about, and I was able to
Wow.
go. And God really revealed a lot to me, and healed me a lot during that time. And as I started to heal, I was like, I want to help other people. Like this is like I don't know how I would do without God. Like that's the only
Yeah.
way I'm able to survive this. And as I started to heal, I started thinking I want to help other people. And so I had written a book before. I loved writing, and a friend sent me this contest called the Book Proposal Boot Camp Contest, and it was through Proverbs 31 Ministries. And I decided to enter it. They basically took book ideas and they chose like 110 out of 800, and mine was one of them.
Hey.
Yeah, so it was very exciting, and it was about a book to help widows. But at this time, I was 6 months out. Like I didn't know anything like I know. And so I got to learn how to make a book proposal and went through this class with all these amazing people. And we had an instructor and all of that. And at the end, I think they chose maybe three people to publish. I was not one of them. But now I'm so thankful. So that's how my book started. And it's Widow Goals, Steps to Finding Peace When You Lose Your Spouse. Basically, I wanted to just put into writing everything I wish that I could have found.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm so glad 6 months out, I didn't know anything. So I just like shelved the book for a while, did a lot of other things, started a nonprofit for widows where we meet every month. I do retreats for widows, started a podcast for widows, but the book was always there. Like, I want to get back to this. So about a year ago, January of 24, I was like, I mean, 25. I was like, okay, it's about to be the 5 year anniversary of Luke's death in May. I want to finish the book and launch it on the 5 year anniversary of his death. So as like a big way to honor him. And so I just got to it. So I'd written 3 chapters like years ago, and then I wrote 27 chapters in 4 months.
Wow.
And I just really, I had already outlined it because of the book proposal. I had the entire thing outlined. So I knew what I want to do. But of course, a lot of that changed.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
so much more to write about because I'm remarried now. So that's a whole other topic that widows like
Mm.
to talk about that I wouldn't have known how to write about. I had a lot more experience with holidays and just so many things that I didn't know at the time. And so I just sat down and I would write every day, like just, go to some place. Sometimes I'd do it in my house. Sometimes I'd go to a coffee shop. My husband Joel and I, he had to go to a work trip and he's like, "Do you want to come and just like write?" So that was perfect. He would go work all day and I would just sit in the hotel and write all day and just get in this zone and just really I'd cry sometimes because as I wrote
Sure.
about Luke's death, that was really hard.
Sure.
But what I also wanted is I've read a lot of widow books because people send them to me because they want me to talk about their books on my podcast and all that. And they're great, but most of them are like 95% their story, 5% how to help the person. But I
Mm.
switched it. I was like, no, I'm doing 95% tools that people can use,
Yeah.
5% my story woven in there. Like my story isn't much. Like it's just little pieces of it within the chapters, but the chapters are things like the first chapter is get out of bed. Like it's just very short chapters that are very attainable to someone who's newly widowed. Then it's things like how to re-enter social spaces, how to survive the
Hmm.
holidays, how to date again, how to be a solo parent, have an eternal purpose. I mean, a perspective, and I just
Hmm.
go into all these topics that I believed were very important for widows. And so I did launch it May 23rd, 2025. I did a wonderful in person book launch. There were about 75 people there, and at least 40 of them were widows.
Wow.
And so that was really, really powerful. And I just reached super excited. Like a couple weeks into December, I reached 1,000 copies sold. So I was super excited because none of
Yay.
my other books have never done that well. I did self-publish. I did try to go traditional route and I never found it. I got close, but never got all the way to them publishing it. And I've found now, having self-published 4 books, that I actually really prefer self-publishing.
Yeah, me too.
I
I'm right
love
there
the
too.
like you get your own
Hmm.
control of it. Like it's just
Hmm.
something that I really enjoy. And I was actually listening to a podcast today and they said don't consider it like I couldn't get traditional, so I went indie. But no, it's like you get to choose which way you
Hmm.
like it. And I was just thinking, I don't know if I would go traditional now.
Yeah, good for you.
Right?
Yeah, good for
Now like
you.
when you get your own like way of doing it and your the control. And I love that was able to launch it on the day that I wanted in the way that I wanted.
Hmm.
I built an ARC team who read my book beforehand, and they were amazing, and a launch team. And I really had an army of people helping me because of my podcast that all wanted to support it and get it out. And social media has been a huge way that I've been
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
promote it through TikTok, Facebook, podcast, all of those things. And so I guess in a nutshell, that's my story plus how I wrote my book.
That's
Um,
amazing,
it-
Michelle. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Thank
Definitely
you.
joy from the ashes, right? Mourning,
Yes.
dancing from mourning. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think you did a great job because you want to give hope to the widows reading it
Yes.
and not just focus on your story, but no, moving forward, there it can happen. You can recover.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
working with widows right now, and I try and let them know that the intensity of your grief that you're feeling right now will not be the intensity in a year or 2 years or three
Exactly.
years. So,
Yeah.
and they're always asking me, well, when will it happen? You're doing so well. How come, when will it happen? And I always tell them, I lost my mom 10 years ago. I lost my dad 2 years ago. It
Mhm.
takes time, don't worry, don't worry. It
Yes.
will happen. It will happen. So that's wonderful that you're
Yes.
so positive focused. You're so goal focused. I love that.
Yeah. It's like we need those small wins when we're brand new. in grief. And so that was really the point of Widow Goals, that it's 30 individual goals and they could take them in any order. Like, okay, this one sounds good today. And it's like 2 or 3 pages. And then there's questions, and then there's uh, action steps. And then in addition, I created a workbook that goes with it now. So it's kind of
Nice.
a and I created a leader's guide. So I see it as like a grief share for widows. That's really my goal.
Yeah.
People have been putting it in their churches and doing groups and all kinds of things. And it's been exciting to see that. It is the coolest thing to be invited. It was a Zoom. They invited to like a book club where they're discussing your book. It's so cool. Like I was
Nice.
like, okay, just pretend I'm not here. Like talk like you would normally talk. And it was amazing. And I'm like, wow, what a privilege.
What
Like to
was
be.
the biggest challenge you faced? I mean, was there one phase of grief that you stayed in the longest, like maybe anger or denial, or what were some of the challenges that you faced though when taking on such a huge project of writing a book?
Yeah, I think it was just making the time to do it because I put it aside for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but as far as like grief goes, I'm a grief recovery specialist, and one of the things that I actually learned really early on in my journey, is that grief more is waves than stages, really.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who created them, she actually originally made them for people dying, not for those
Yes,
grieving. Isn't that crazy?
exactly. I know.
So that was something that I learned, and it actually gave me relief. Like, okay, because I was like, I didn't really go through anger. I didn't really go through this. And then I learned, like, oh, you don't have to. Some
Yeah.
people do go through some of them, but you don't have to. But yeah, in the writing process, I think it was, I don't know, I'm just a person that when I decide to do it, I do it. And
Mhm.
so it was very emotional when I did his death scene, like in a couple different parts of the book for different things. Because the first chapter is get out of bed, and I'm talking about the morning after he died and what that was like. And, my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter crying beside me and just, it did
Yeah.
bring me back. It did bring me back, and that was
Yeah.
hard. But just knowing that it was going to help so many people, because I have a podcast and I hear from people all over the world. But there are lots of people, especially older people, who are like, what's a podcast? They don't even know. And so I wanted to get my book out so other people who don't do podcasts can, read it. And I've heard a lot of great reviews and stuff of how it's helped people. And it's not just women. Like when I say widow, it means widower as well. I put that in my book. Like it's men or women. And so it's been nice to hear from men as well of how this book has helped them. And I mean, that's really what kept me going when I was like, oh, I got to do this very quickly. I have an editor who is also widowed, and she just stepped up and wanted to help me with it. She's ready for the next project. And she's like, when are we doing the next book? And I actually have some ideas I'm working on.
Now,
Um,
your podcast is called Widowed Too
Too
Soon.
soon. Yeah.
So why did you want to focus on that?
I focus on that for
Yeah,
what?
like
For a
women who
podcast.
you feel like women lost their husbands so young. Is that what it's about?
No, it's just every single person who's widowed believes it was too soon.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
it's kind of like a universal. And when it started, there were two of us. I had a co-host, and so it really made sense to do widowed too soon because there were two of us.
Oh,
So
cute.
so for 3.5 years, it was myself and a widower. So we had the male's perspective and the female perspective. He had young kids, I had teenagers. All we
Mm,
did for the first year was just like basically talk through life and what it's like and what we found hopeful. We started it because we were in this Facebook group and we were like, these people need Jesus. Like, we need to share what's helping us get through it. And so that's how we started the podcast. And then it kind of grew from there. And then he left the podcast about a year and a half ago. And then I really turned it into more of an interview style. So I mostly interview widows and widowers from all over the world,
wow.
and hear their stories. And everyone has a unique, interesting story. And it's
Mhm.
always, what helped you, like how did you get through it, to give people hope, for where they're going.
Yeah.
But my real passion, I mean, if I could do three things for the rest of my life, I'd want to write, podcast, and speak. Those are my
Nice.
three favorite things to do.
Yeah.
And I just love being with people and encouraging them. And it's just so rewarding when you write a book and people tell you it helps them, right? It's just
Yes.
like something that's so phenomenal. And when people tell you, like, I got this for Christmas and it's helping me. And like I get little notes all the time or reviews. And it's so encouraging to know that this thing that God put on my heart, like really is helping people.
So if you had a widow in front of you, a lady who just lost her husband, say right before Christmas, and she's hurting, what would be some advice that you would give to
Mhm.
her to comfort her and help her go forward?
Yeah, that's a great thing. Great question. I would tell her what I wanted to hear. It's not kind of what you said. It's not always going to feel like this. It's not always going to hurt so bad. It's like when there's an amputation, which is easy for me to picture because Luke had an amputation of that person. It's like a limb is gone. Like we're going to always miss them, but we're going to learn to live without them.
Mm.
And so I would say it doesn't always hurt this bad. And you have to treat healing and grief like it's your job. Because if you don't, you're going to be in the same place. I have met the widows who are 10 years out who are like baby widows because they haven't done the work. And so,
Yeah.
what does the work mean? It means feeling it. What we feel, God can heal. Like, if we don't let ourselves feel it, we're never going to heal. It's like if I had a flat tire and I went out, I was like, oh, my tire's flat. I'll come back in a year. It'll be good. Well, if I do no work, I don't put the air up to it, it's still going to be flat. It's the same with our grief. If we don't actually do things like grief share or read the books and, all the things, go to counseling, we are going to be in the same place if we don't put work into it. So that's one of the biggest things I advise people is do the grief work. Get into a program, talk to a counselor, read the books, go to the conferences, I think whatever you can. I treated healing like it was my job, like in the beginning, like I just poured into it. So I would advise people to pour into it and find other people who get it. Like that's a huge thing is finding community. And that's why I started my groups. Not only do I have groups in my area, I have them in 30 cities because I want people to find a group and feel like, oh, I belong. I know these
Mm.
people get it. That was so huge for me in my grief journey is finding other people who understood what I was going through.
Yeah, knowing that you're not alone because sometimes it can
Yes.
feel so lonely, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
I always tell the ladies in my group, because we do it via Zoom, and I'm like, look at all the
Mhm.
names on there.
Yep.
They are going through it too. You are not
Yes.
alone.
So
So
true.
that's so important that you do that. I love that. And so sometimes though, people will come up to you with kindness in their hearts, good intentions, but they might say something like, "Aren't you over it yet?" Or
Hmm.
"I know exactly what you're going through. I lost my dog last month and I
No.
know." How do you handle that?
Yeah, that's very common that this happens. And so I teach people to listen to their hearts, not their words. Like most people mean well, they just don't know what to say. So I actually have an entire chapter in my book. It's called Kindly Inform Your Friends and Family What to Say and What Not to Say. And there's a QR code where they can download it and send it to their friends and family.
Nice.
Because anytime you say, I understand, that's not a good way to start the sentence. Because even if I'm widowed, and you're widowed and I say I understand I'm widowed, I don't. We don't have the same story. I can understand the feelings of being widowed. But like if someone says that to me, which someone said that to my son, like I understand my goldfish died or something, but he was 12 and in fifth grade, sixth grade. So, I just don't really respond much. But I know in my heart they don't mean that. Some people do,
Yeah.
say, no, it's not the same. The one that widows really don't like is people say, I understand I'm divorced. And I do know that is a big grief. My current husband is divorced and it is a grief. I understand that, but it's not the same. Like we should never compare. We never compare grief. I'm sure you know
Yes,
that from grief share. We don't
exactly.
compare grief. Like it's
Yeah.
grief is grief and pain is pain. So it's just trying to have patience for people and like just know they mean well because most people do. No one is trying to say dumb things. They just don't know. There's so little grief education right now in the world, especially the US. The US doesn't know how to deal with death and grief, and people don't know what to say. I don't think I knew what to say before I lost my
Yeah,
husband.
me too. Me too. I didn't know.
Right?
I thought I knew grief because I lost my grandparents. But when my sister died, that's when I
Ooh,
realized this is
yeah.
grief. I don't know what I'm feeling. But one thing I also want to ask, do you find that it's the kind of death too? Like you mentioned anticipatory death. I've experienced that with my sister with cancer and then my dad. But then there's trauma, and I've
Mm,
experienced that as well. Do you
yeah.
find that when you're talking with some of the ladies that it depends on the kind of loss too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I find that those people like myself who knew their husband was dying, anticipatory grief, sometimes like move through grief faster because they've already done it rather than like I have a good friend, her husband went to work and died in a car accident. She had
Yeah.
no idea it was coming. That typically takes a little bit longer because they didn't have any idea. So yeah, I do see the difference in that. Is just the way that it happened because I knew, like, I learned what anticipatory grief. I had a widow friend and she taught me, she said, it's like standing on a train track knowing the train is coming right
Mm.
at you. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. And that's how I felt when he was going through his cancer. It's just like knowing this is coming. It was like a horrible feeling. I
Yeah,
hated it. But
it's
yeah, I
true.
definitely see the difference with the different kind of deaths.
Well, this is wonderful. So what's coming next for you then?
I am looking at extending beyond just widows. And so actually, I'm thinking about starting another podcast called Water Walking Faith. And it's like kind of like the next step. If we're tired of talking all about grief and all of this thing, it's going to be about people who had huge faith in all different areas of life and how God walked them through it, and also creating a
Nice.
book with the same title. And so that's kind of, I love working with widows, but I've been doing it almost 5 years and I'm kind of tired of talking about death all the time. And so I'm looking at next steps. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Oh,
So
that's
I'll be starting the
wonderful.
podcast very soon, probably, and then the book after that. I
That's
got
great
invited.
because so many of the widows that you talk to will get hope from that because like you, I've been doing this for like 6 years with grief support and know so many success stories.
Yes.
So many widows who are now in ministry or going on mission
Yes.
trips, like you're doing, helping others, or they took their anger and it energized them, and now they're with, they started foundations and
Yeah.
scholarship programs and all this stuff. And so that is a great idea because sometimes when you're in your grief, and even a year or two out, you start to look for that new purpose in life. And so if
Yeah.
you could show some of these ladies ideas that they could have to go forward and to find a
Yes.
new purpose, that would be amazing. Good for
Yes,
you.
thank you. It's like in the baby stages of
Mm.
figuring out what it looks like. So I was up until a week ago, I was going to write like a book for general grief, like take my same concepts, but then I just wasn't excited about it. I'm like, I'm done writing about grief. Like, I'm ready for something more positive and teaching them how to get to where I'm at today with peace and joy and like all the things. And I don't know, just some more positive things. Even though I'm so glad, and the great thing about podcasts and books, they're going to live out there forever, so it will continue to grow while I'm growing like the next step, because most people listen to the podcast for maybe like a year or so, and then they're like, I'm kind of done with this because they're
Yeah,
tired of hearing sad stories, which I get. That's how I feel about the Facebook groups, is I kind of get tired of all of it, even though I run one, but I get tired of it.
sure.
Um, so I'm
I hear
just,
you.
yeah, praying for the next step and for clarity and all of that. But
Yeah,
it's,
I hear
yeah,
you.
it's
I
it's
take a
been
break from doing grief support too. I only do it
right.
twice a year, so because I need a
Yeah,
break too. So yeah.
yeah, you get that. And I've created this whole system with the leader's guide, the workbook, and the book, and it's people are doing it at churches, and it's growing, and so that can continue to grow while
Mhm.
I kind of have that next step for those who want to graduate on to the next thing. So
Oh, that's
that's the
brilliant.
thought. Thank
Well,
you.
listeners, head over to widowgoals.org and you can learn more about Michelle, her program, her book, her podcast. She is amazing. She has so many resources there for you, and you can donate as well. Michelle, this has been so encouraging. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wow, wasn't that incredible to listen to Michelle Bader Ebersole talk about her life story, how she took her pain from grief and loss and turned it into something positive and helpful. Amazing. I hope that you've been encouraged, especially for the tips that she gave about how to write a book, a nonfiction book. You're still telling a story, you're still taking your readers on a journey. And so think of ways that you can use your life story to change lives, to help others recover. After all, isn't that why we're here on this earth? And most of all, I thank you for listening today. Until next time, God bless.